Adventure is what lies ahead. Today and tomorrow are yet to be said. The chances, the changes are all yours to make. The mold of your life is in your hands to break. The greatest adventure is there if you're bold. Let go of the moment that life makes you hold. To measure the meaning can make you delay. It's time you stop thinking and wasting the day. The man who's a dreamer and never takes leave, who thinks of a world that is just make-believe, will never know passion, will never know pain. Who sits by the window will one day see rain. The greatest adventure is what lies ahead. Today and tomorrow are yet to be said. The chances, the changes are all yours to make. The mold of your life is in your hands to break. The greatest adventure is what lies ahead.
Hello everyone, my name is Notepad and I write games for fun. So what are we working on today? We're going to be working again on Project Inchling, a game about being tiny people and dying horrifically. So, let me just fix the music volume up a little bit because we have some jammin' piano to go with. Some stuff. God, that's really loud. There we go. So, yesterday we worked on traveling rules a little bit and wrapped up combat, which we stole wholeheartedly from Neo's Scavenger because we have the creative ability of roughly a 5-year-old. And if you see on to our right here, we have things I want to add. Traveling things. But before we do any of this fun stuff, such as weather, terrain, science, civilization, traveling by land, sea, or air, we have to do some math autism. And what do I mean by math autism? Math autism is exactly as it sounds. It's going to be me doing crunching numbers. So, yes, last night I crunched some numbers and I found what roughly the scale of things is going to have to be. So, an average human being is around 5'4". This is an average human being of man, female, doesn't really matter, just average. It's about 5'4". And if we convert that into inches, we have about 64 inches. And if we bring that down to inchling size, otherwise known as one of them, an inch, you have an average of pretty much 1/64. 1 out of 64. So an average male being 5'6" is roughly going to be 1.06 inches tall. And an average female at 5'2" is roughly going to be at 0.97 inches. And the 6-foot Adonis, like the rest of us, it's going to be about 1.13 inches. Now, why is this important? This is important because we need to get a scale for how long traveling actually takes. So, since we have our rough thing of 1 inch equals about a person, roughly, now we get to find the fun part of math. So, let's hit literally every single button wrong. Oh god. No, that's not it. That's not it at all. Okay, I'm hitting all the wrong buttons here. 150, and this is Ryuutama. Ryuutama is actually a fairly famous game out in Japan because it is a very fluffy game. You could call it And by what I mean is fluffy, I don't mean like it's a happy-go-lucky adventure, really. It's a Hayao Miyazaki's traveling tabletop RPG. And I quite enjoy it. Has some interesting mechanics in it, but one big thing is that journey rules are actually very good, and that's something we're going to be taking some notes on. So, roughly speaking, one day is about 8 hours on foot. It means that we're going to be walking 30 kilometers. Now, if we go here, 30 kilometers to miles, we have 18.641. Just 30 kilometers. Okay, it's not going to like me very much when I do that. So, roughly speaking, miles equals 30 km equals roughly 8 hours travel. 8 hours daily travel for a average human being. Now, if we take our little thing here, we have to now convert these miles. 18.64 miles, and now we get to put it into inches. Wow, that's a lot of inches. You may be wondering, how the hell are we supposed to even use this? So, because we're looking at that to be our math here. So 73,309. 3,000. Oh God, no! It's 700. 733,000 inches. 901. 733,901,000 inches. Jesus Christmas Christ. That's a lot. That's a lot of inches. That's a lot of inches. So, we're going to have to let's see, actually we're going to round everything up just for the sake of ease. Inches, and actually what I can do, wait a second, that's kilometers, didn't mean to do that. Oh, sweet mother of Christ. Okay, 19 miles equals, oh, equals a lot more inches. Now you're seeing why this is somewhat of a problem, because we're dealing with vastly larger ranges than we would traditionally be thinking about. So we really need to condense this. So hello phone, what do you want? People are talking to me about things and stuff. So, God, how do we want to do this? So, where's my pencil? I actually got a notebook in front of me just to give you the idea of what we're actually working with here. So, if we assume everything is 1/64th. So on average, a human can walk about 30 kilometers. So 30 km to Isles. And then we're going to round that to 19 miles to... Vastly smaller is what the answer is. Vastly smaller is what we have to work with. Why don't we just do more and use a 64th of that? And so the 64. That should be the right way of doing things. So that's 18812.5. So that's the rough conversion is 18,812. And if we do 18,812. So roughly speaking, if we divide it by 64, an average inchling can move about that many, about 0.3 of a mile, only about a day. It can move only 0.3 a mile a day. You don't think about, so let's see, if we're doing with 0.3 miles, and we want to convert you into kilometers, oh God, 0.5 kilometers. So roughly speaking, an inchling can move half a kilometer a day. This is roughly speaking. So if we build the map in such a way that each individual square is 0.5, but pretty much 1 square kilometer. That doesn't sound right. No, that doesn't sound right at all. 0.5 kilometers, 0.5, so it would be length times width equals that. So length times width equal 2.25 square kilometers. That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right at all. I'm going insane. No, it's 0.25. I got people asking where the hell my stream is. And Discord. Let's see, currently. So yeah, there'd be a 0.25 square kilometers. So a full, Jesus, effectively, so to get a full 1 square kilometer, because 0.5, 1 times 1, yeah, so it'd be 0.25, so you'd be dividing up into that. Whoever the hell's watching is probably getting a real big kick of me losing my goddamn mind when it comes to math. So if you base every square off about a quarter of a mile, so you can cover 1 space a day, a quarter square kilometer. So if we do a 5x5 grid, actually no, it would be easier if we did a 10x10. thing is, I can see it in my head. And the thing is, I need to get this map. I need to get the scale of the zones correct so I can then scale everything else correctly. Because we're working with such small numbers. So if we're dealing with 0.25 kilometers square. There's Pullman saying I'm a good guy, which is a unique thing. So, the thing is, I'm actually drawing this out on my notepad in front of me. It's because that's what helps me visualize things a little easier. So that's one square kilometer, 2 square, 3, 4. So that's 2 by 2. This is 4 square kilometers. So 4 square kilometers, mind you, would roughly, to cover from one corner to the other, it would take you 1, 2, 3, 4. It'd take you 4 days effectively to cover, and that would be 2 kilometers takes you 4 days. So if you, yeah, okay, perfect. Math adds up. Now, what does this mean for some of the other concepts, I should say, behind the game? What this means is that when there is a weather effect, it's not going to take up 1 square. It's going to take up the map. Or, yeah, it's a terrain feature isn't going to be just one little thing. It's going to be the map. These are going to be massive things to work with, so gotta get the numbers right, because if the numbers aren't right, that means it's not working. So roughly one zone equals 0.25 kilometers squared. Kilometers squared. I could probably just do meters, would be easiest, but that's a nice, beautiful little round number. 0.25 works. You know what they say? Do not break what isn't. Wait, don't fix what isn't broken. Yeah. I'm like halfway into a bottle of beer. I'm already. Let's say words. Living the dream. Let's see. So let's do a side note. Size, actually, what I can do, for groups that don't wish to abstract movement, feel free to adopt a map. Roughly speaking, a zone is okay, I'm going to rewrite this entire section. Oh God, help me, please save me from this nightmare. For groups who don't want to abstract movement, feel free to adopt map. Roughly speaking, a zone is 0.25 kilometers square. Actually, it should be square kilometers. Actually, if you want to be specific about it, we go by virtues of 2, so 4, 6, 8. So if we do 8, we have our central ones. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that would be 1 on 1. So this would be so this would be 2 kilometers, be 4. This would be 4 as well. So if we top that off on top to even everything out. I want to draw this out, alright? Oh, damn it. Welcome to Notepad. Anon draws in his notebook that nobody can see because he didn't think this part, he thought this was going to be really easy. Give ourselves a nice big square to work with. Okay, we have our square. Now we're going to make another square inside each of these squares. Make another square inside each one of those. And we get to literally count them all up because I have no sense of right or wrong or entertainment value. See, I try not to. I try to use my classic notepad right over here. Except drawing things out is often the best when it comes to math things like this. So let's see, 4, 8, 16, 32. So it's effectively 64 squares. 64 if each one of those are 0.10s. 0.25. If we're doing with 64 times 0.25. Words, words, words is what we do best here. God, I wish I was you. Nah. Okay, so that would be 16 square kilometers. So 64 squares. So to traverse 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It'll take about a week for you to move across. Yeah. Fun thing about me is all throughout school, I was actually in like dumb, super dumb math. Because math didn't come easy to me. It never has. But when I actually started doing dev work, math became a lot easier for me. Just because I have a little bit more, dare I say, context for a lot of things. It's determining dice ranges make a lot more sense to me than just slapping words on a paper and saying, okay, solve for X. Being like, that doesn't really make any, like, to me, that kind of boggles my brain a little bit. But if it's just like, all right, find out what the logical result of this would be, or find out how much of this is in this area, I'm like, okay, this makes a lot more sense to me. So, see, dev work helps people outside the alcoholism. Cheap, shitty beer. So if we go here, is around 16 square kilometers. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 by 8 squares. Eight square being around 0.25 kilometers. Why do I keep capitalizing the M there? I don't need to do that. People have probably noticed over time, I have a good appreciation of the shift key. I don't know why I will instinctually hit shift on a lot of things. Okay, so when designing your these grids determine where zones are. Multiple zone may take place in the same world. Squares worth of space, while cities may take up to 2 to 5. Sprawls of land may have difficulties or problems associated with this. So a river would be difficult to cross without a boat, or be destroyed, or a fallen log may serve as good cover against the elements. I think the hardest thing with this game in particular, Project Inchling, is the scale of things. Now, for those who aren't quite in the loop of what I've been doing, as you see, this is episode 3 technically. This is Project Inchling, a game about being a tiny person trying to survive the harsh world. Now, the key thing about this game is that I want to put in I wouldn't say a robust, but a decently complex traveling system. So that's why I'm kind of getting all of these little bits and pieces together, because if I don't have the traveling system, the core pitch of the game doesn't quite work. And I'm not one of those men who factor in being like, as long as you have combat rules, your game's fine. No, absolutely not. I refuse to believe that. Are there combat rules? Yes. Were the first thing to get done major mechanically? Hell yeah, because it fed into everything else. But traveling is where the main meat of the game comes in. So let's set my little notebook off to the side here as I begin typing some more. Also, we have everyone's favorite, my co-commentator, squeaky ass chair. Yeah, right. If you have any questions about anything, don't hesitate to ask, by the way. I'm always open for just about any kind of questions. Yes, travel is supposed to be a major focus in the game. The key pitch of this game is that you are individuals who are kind of going from place to place, and instead of like the main quest being go slay a monster or go find me an object, it's deliver all these things to this village over here. It's going to be a week's travel. However, deal with all the things that want to murder you along the way. Or, hey, when you're navigating this area, make sure that you aren't, encountering something that wants to kill you. Or, the key pitch of the game is the traveling. Everything else is supplemental to the traveling. I found the only game that really does this well is Ryuutama. There's a couple other games that have traveling rules, but it's usually the One Ring and Ryuutama, the ones that really have those nice traveling rules that I was going with. And I have a deep and lovely affection for the One Ring, because the One Ring is a very good game that nobody likes, apparently. Alright, so there is a const or a 4 inchlings. There's a simple downpour to big ones. There's a simple rain to big ones. May spell a massive flood for them. When traveling, the elements are a constant sense of worry for the characters at large. For the characters. Well, the idea of like keeping track of things, the main thing that usually goes in with that, what I've noticed anyway, is that it either goes very detailed or you have 5,000 fucking items to worry about. In D&D, for example, that's just kind of comes at the top of my head. You get situations like, do I want to keep track of every single one of my arrows? No, that's dumb. I just have arrows. If anyone asks, I'll spend a few gold at the closest town to get more arrows. Or, hey, I'm carrying 50 swords and 50 other things. Yeah, my weight's going to be a big thing, but overall, those are tacked on rules, I've noticed. The other game I wrote in this similar vein, Where the Light Fades Softly, actually where the traveling mechanics comes from, is I try to simplify it down because you want to keep track of everything. You want to, and the boring and tedious comes, dare I say, being a boring and tedious adventure comes from when it doesn't matter. You don't care about it. In some games, why should you care about keeping track of how many rations you have? We are on a magic quest to save the world from a demi-lich. But keeping track of how many rations you have in a game focused around that, it stops being tedious. It's exciting. You're looking at it, you're like, oh wow. Or when you get things like weight and you have a somewhat far simpler numbers behind it as well, I think that's another big thing. Nobody wants to keep track of like, okay, do we have 15 kilograms of this, or do we have 20 kilograms of this? No, it's, do I have space for this? Yes. 1, 2, 3, or something very simple like that. People get bogged down in it because it's, A, needlessly complex, and dare I say those evil words, realistic, or it's not serving the main point of the game. The main point of the game is going on magic adventures to kill demi-liches. No one cares if you're carrying the 15 kilogram magic sword. No one cares. Because that's not the point. But in a game where we need to deliver this medicine to this other city, and it's costing us like 5 of our space, and we only have 15 space, but we still need supplies, suddenly it kind of becomes more important. You start thinking about it more. It's like, okay, well, we'll find food along the way because we know there's a way station here and we can eat there. It's going to take us 2 days to get there, but we can deal without a day without food. Or, maybe we should not stock up on additional, personal supplies because we don't need it. Because we need to get all these goods to where we need to go. Some games focus a lot more on, dare I say, actually, how do I word this properly? Some games get caught up in their own way of thinking, and it's either realism takes over or something like that. Ultimately speaking, you want to make sure that the players are having fun and they are making decisions. Just because decisions are important. If the character is not having fun with the mechanic, you have to wonder why they are not having fun with it. Some mechanics are designed to not be fun. Other mechanics are designed to be. I like to have majority of my mechanics be fun. It's, oh no, we don't have enough space for this. Can we really take this? What do we give up? It's that option. I don't like giving them the, alright, okay everyone, give me your shield so I make sure you're not cheating on me again. That's not fun. No, nobody likes that. That's my philosophy on the matter anyway, so yell at me or sick a knife on me, I don't care. Traveling, the elements are a constant sense of worry for the character. There are 5 states the characters can be in. Freezing, raining, sweltering. Or some other good weather conditions. Oh. Foggy. There we go. These are in a cold climate. They are not properly insulated. They'll take a +1, take a +2 illness. Every day they are out in the cold. Actually, no. +5 illness. Now you may be wondering what do I mean by +5 illness, if you haven't been following anything. Is health is calculated effectively on 4 different metrics. You have your bodily health, obviously, you have illness, hunger, as well as depression. And if those build up too much, you start getting sick, ill, bad, and you start losing dice. That means you're not doing as well, and that means you're more likely to die, and dying sucks. So, that's the context for that. Character are in a downpour. While stamina expenditure are doubled, while in the rain and they'll gain +2 illness every day they are out in the rain. Sweltering are in a heated they'll require 2 rations a day to keep hydrated. If they fail at that, they'll take +1. It's blood, illness, and depression. Illness, actually, I should say +2 illness and depression. Orders are in a thick and impossible to see through fog. All stamina expenditures are doubled. Actually, they'll gain +2 illness every day they are in rain. Lose 1 morale. Characters are stuck in a situation where the very land seems to be hazardous to their health, seems to be dangerous to their health. Characters take 2 blood, New day, they are in the area. Yeah, I bungled up my arm somewhere around yesterday. I don't know how and I don't know why, but it hurts like hell recently. So let's pop open beer number 2, because I am a raging alcoholic and I need help. Delicious. The characters are in pleasant traveling weather. Yeah, don't worry about a thing. We want to make you 3, if I remember correctly. Yep, 3. And that means if you're 3, that means you're going to be 4. Control Shift 8. Add-on sorted paragraph A to Z. One day I would like to upgrade beyond Google Documents, but until I can find a solid system that allows me to do such, I'm going to be stuck with this. This is because I like to make it so that people can take a look at my games a lot easier without having to go through hoops and ladders to view them. And if weather is done, that means we get to move on to terrain. This tour, the area will be composed of various terrain types. While some terrains are lethal and uncaring, others are perfect for inchlings to navigate through due to small areas and easy to access. Bolt holes to relax. Now let me just double check what the meaning of bolt hole is so I don't make a complete asshole of myself. And perfect. Bolt hole. Bolt hole is one of my favorite words, and I wish it would be used more often because it just sounds menacing. And we'll just use the natural fantasy RPG. So we're dealing with grasslands, wasteland, woods, highlands, rocky, deep forests, swamps, mountains, deserts, jungles, alpine. If it works, take it. Also because what we can do now is, since we haven't, we can start cutting down on it. Peaceful land with shrubs and little cover. Between mountain life hasn't taken much root or has died. Between mountains, life is sparse. Life is sparse, and what survives is fairly hostile. Lightwood, I'll say light woods. The outskirts of the forests. Trees and roots make for good cover. Good cover as villages are nestled in small hidey holes. Sloping hills a bit that have fair amounts of pasture land and gardening spaces, popular among the big folk. I'm gonna take Rocky out, I don't think. Deep forest. Actually, heavy forest. Deep in forgotten woodlands. Like savage creatures and the lack of light. Sunlight. Some villages find comfort far away. The big ones. Others find only treacherous death. Wetlands with bogs and other damp areas. Treacherous for those unfamiliar with the landscape, but those who can master its marshy nature find themselves alone. Actually, what I can do is rocky. Call it craggy. Crags and mountain ranges make for little plant life, harsh weather, and angry creatures. But also plenty of caves, nooks, and crannies to hide in. Just checking the music, make sure it doesn't run out. So nothing but the sun to greet its inhabitants, whether barren of life due to heat or cold. Desert is no place for an inchling. Inchling without good reason. Deep in the jungle woods, find village may find peace, food, and resources. Plenty, sickness, and ferocious beasts. Stock the land as well. Yeah, we can cut alpine too. We can just fold that into craggy. And we want to do that heading 4. We're going to select everything here. Control Shift 8. Add-on sort A to Z. Desert, grassland. Oh, don't mean to do that. Let's do travel checks. Actually, how do I want to do this? Actually, what I should say, common weather, sweltering, freezing, pleasant, common weather, sweltering or freezing. Yep, those are your two options in the desert. Either freezing to death or you're probably dying. Common weather. Rainy or pleasant. Fog, common weather. Rainy, pleasant, or foggy. Common weather. Freezing, pleasant, or foggy. Actually, I should say rainy, pleasant, or foggy. Sweltering, rainy, foggy. Rainy, foggy, or pleasant. Common weather. Rainy, foggy. Rainy or foggy. Rainy, foggy, or hazardous. Wastelands. Common weather. Foggy. Sweltering. Freezing. Pleasant. Or hazardous. I think Things change fairly rapidly in places like that. I should know, I lived in one. Train, common weather, cuckoo choo-choo. Actually, I shouldn't. Two stamina to cross. 2 stamina to cross. 1 stamina to cross. 2 stamina to cross. 1 stamina to cross. 2 stamina to cross. 1 stamina to cross. 2 stamina to cross. Make swamps extra awful to deal with because nobody likes swamps because swamps are awful places. In case anyone fights me on that, I lived in Florida, and Florida sucks. Anyone who says like, man, Florida's the greatest place, no, you're lying to yourself. Florida's awful. It's an awful place. Visit for a week, but never go back. That's my hot take of the year. Well, at this point, it sounds like talking is a hot take, so c'est la vie. Every terrain has a stamina cost to cross it. Cross it with overland travel. More dangerous places is the more it costs to travel. We'll have to add 2 pictures here and wrap everything up. I may add a... Actually, I'm going to put 1 picture up here, and then I'm going to put a side note right here, which effectively is going to say, for like, when designing your own terrain, really just kind of think about what you want. Which brings me to, we're going to do signs of civilization. Civilization. Cities. As the Inchlings make their way across the world, they'll run across parts of Inchling society. Inchling society that will either greet them with open arms or seek nothing more than to hang them by their thumb. Three major types of locations. 3 major types of outposts, or way stations, villages, and cities. Outpost. An outpost is little more than a shack. That is meant for Poktal to rest their heads and allow easier transportation of goods across the line. Fraggle Rock. There goes my ankle. God, I'm a broken mess, by the way. Poked out residents allow easier transportation of goods across the land. These outposts are rarely manned, outside the occasional individual traveling or a maintenance per. Villages. A village is the main social unit of the Inchling people. They are fairly populous settlements, nestled away from danger, and usually well equipped enough to protect themselves. A village often has an inn and various shops, as well as the mayor's establishment, mayor's house, which often doubles as the sole government official, thus employer in the area for Poktal. And now we get to do fun rolling things. So, for population, roll 2d6 and times it by 25. So if you roll 12 times 25, about 300, yeah. Roll 2d7. Determine the number of residents of the village. Larger the village. Often, larger the village means more shops and goods. Prosperity. Roll a 1d6 to determine the prosperity of the village. And we're going to do 1 dirt poor, 2 poor, 3 average, 4 prosperous, 5 wealthy, 6 rich. The prosperity determines the amount of goods available, as well as the conditions of the village itself. Footnote: a poor village may result in the Poktal getting mugged in the streets. For example, while a rich village may not allow dirty foreigners, dirty Poktal into their walls. Dirty foreigners in our village, never. City. A city is an uncommon phenomenon of the Inchlings. As a prosperous city, often makes it the target of those who would seek to exploit it. Often heavily defended, these cities serve as major power blocks in the area, often headed by a magister or other high government official. Villages may be in the... God, what's the word I'm looking for? Not employ, but, vassalage? Oh, okay, I know shit. Maybe under the protection of said city and pay a tithe. Population, roll 2d6 times 100, determine the number of residents of the city. And then we're going to just copy paste the prosperity here. What we're also going to do is government. Roll a 1d6 to determine the ruling body of the city. These affect its rough policies, as well as the nature of the city. 1. Democracy. The city is run by a democratically elected body and adheres to its citizens and vassals. 2. Autocracy. The city is run by a single autocrat, with absolute power. Do not question them or suffer the consequences. 3. Socialism. City is run by the people for the people. There is technically no head of government, or any government for that matter. Or now we start getting into the really weird stuff. Oh yeah, we forget monarchy. City is run by a divinely appointed figurehead of the people, passing the title down from ruler to child, or more violent means. Plutocracy. The city is run by the merchants and the rich. One must be able to buy their way into power or risk losing everything. And what would be a suitably mad form of government, as tiny people would undertake? As my computer kills itself for reasons. Got some big thing going on here. Oh wow. Come on, let's get some nice nature music going on. To really emphasize how nice and pleasant we are. I said let's get some nature music going to emphasize how nice and peaceful we are. There we go. Be gone, ad. Why is it always anime girls on these things? Why can't we have a non-anime girl emotional piano music? Junta. City is run by the military forces of the city. Military force of the city. They control the bureaucracy. Bureaucracy, as well as the administration. These are all fun things, ultimately speaking. Like, they aren't necessary, but it's good to have just in case someone's like, I have no idea what I want to do. All right, just build up your own little world with all the little problems that go along with it. You psychopath. Control Shift 8. I'm always a fan of anything that allows you just to kind of like roll for various, little things like this. That's why I always try to put at least one in the game. I feel it always helps to flesh out the world a little bit. Reminds me of the old, there's a TSR book. Dungeon Master's Guide? No, a World Builder's Guide, that's it. That had a full thing of this. I got that when I was really young, and I use the hell out of it. It's still actually in my cupboard right now. Democracy is a flawed concept if we want to believe that, but we don't because we're not fucking insane. Dude. Why are you all justified all of a sudden? Stop being justified. It's the one time I don't want you to be justified. God damn it. Alright. And let's do the traveling by land, sea, or air. Traveling by land, sea, or air. I'm gonna make that a side note instead. I don't think it deserves a full section. So, okay, we got the hard parts done. What else do we need? I still need to fix this entire bit. Let's actually update our key here. Alright, we're doing pretty alright. How many words are we at currently? We are at 4,299, almost 4,300, and we still have to add. So let's do a big think of what still needs to be added. So, roughly speaking, we still need to add equipment, obviously, and we still need to add the big ones. We still need to add advancement. Let's actually pull up a... Let's pull up Project Tactics real fast. That might give us a better idea of what we're missing. I have a feeling we're missing something. I don't quite know what. Veteran C, advancement, equipment. So we can do non-player characters. And then we're going to do extended scenarios, extended rules, and scenario scenarios. Okay. So these are the 5 things we still need to do. It's going to probably go big ones, advancements, equipment, non-player characters, and then the extended rules. I feel like we're forgetting something, but I don't know what it is because I'm a moron. So overall, I think tomorrow we're going to hammer out. Oh god, we're going to hammer out the big ones. The big ones are effectively going to be how to avoid and how to not die to giant things that want to kill you. Because, fun fact, an Inchling, no matter how many cool things they have, can't really withstand being stepped on by a man, my size, which is a giant lard lad. You're going to die, because it's going to hurt you, because they are bigger than you. And so kind of factoring in the idea of, like, the big ones, and, entities that are bigger than you, and way more tough. It's hard for you to deal with, but I'm going to put in just like a little bit of mechanics of like, hey, this is how you actually kind of like deal with these people, because it's a lot harder than you think. They have their own kind of system, and it's trying to make sure that you don't panic and run away and get yourself killed like an idiot. So, thank you all for watching, whoever stayed around to listen to me ramble incoherently for a little over an hour. Eventually everything will get uploaded to YouTube, and it's just going to take time. I've started the initial process of getting the Iron Casket stuff uploaded. It's just time consuming, to be honest. You can go to my YouTube. It's just Google up Notepad Anon on YouTube, and it'll be probably the first one. Look for the Notepad document. I do have a website, as always, notepadanon.wixsite.com/SPRUG Workshop. I think it's the SPRUG Workshop. Or it's just SPRUG Workshop. They don't pay me enough to know these things. It is the SPRUG Workshop. What else am I thinking? Well, I don't really have anything else to. Tomorrow we're going to hammer out the big ones. We're going to hammer out. If that goes quickly, we may work on advancement. Once these 2 are done, it's kind of easy straight from there. I may do some little work for traveling rules off camera, because that's just going to be me, clicking 1, then 2, then 1, then 2. It's just going to be a lot of not very fun rules. Equipment probably, if we absolutely blow through these 2, I may start on equipment, but equipment's probably going to be fairly long because I have a few ideas of how I want to do it, because there's going to be a few sections to equipment. Non-player characters are, I'm going to have to split that up into 3 as well. We're going to have Inchlings themselves, we're going to have bugs, and we're going to have more fantastical entities. Because inherently speaking, this isn't a fantasy game, but it is a fantasy game at the same time. It's very confusing. So, orcs, goblins, and all that aren't really a part of the game, but if you want them to be, I want to put in just like a little bit of rules for like, hey, yeah, no, these are other tiny creatures that want to eat you, or hey, what do you do with when you're fighting a fairy, for example, or you're fighting a pixie? What kind of having rules for them just in case they pop up. And then we go to extended rules. Extended rules I'm effectively going to break down into, again, 3 different categories of scenarios. And my 3 scenarios are Poketall proper, which are pretty much you're a group of wandering travelers going from village to village, city to city, kind of trading goods and fixing problems along the way, with all the associated problems and issues that go along with it for being effectively societal outcasts. The second one is pocket adventures, in which you are literally a bunch of Inchlings who find themselves in the pocket, literally, of an adventure, literally and metaphorically, I should say. And oh god, I'm dropping this shit. And kind of the little adventures that you go on that way. And my final one is kind of like its own little idea. Like, I have the idea of effectively, like, how do I word this? Being a little bit more personalized stories rather than like having an emphasis on travel. Like, travel is going to be a big part of it, of course, like all these systems are, but having like a bigger emphasis on things like, hey, you're kind of dealing with a single place and you're a little bit more important than initially. Those are my ideas there. And a couple other extended rules. If I don't put over land, air, and sea in the traveling section, I'm going to put it in the extended rules and just have like, hey, this is what your boat may look like, or hey, this is what you can fly with this, like a little glider or something like that. That's effectively what I mean by it. And what else? What else am I missing? Probably I'll also put in different kinds of inchlings there. Such as, hey, I want to play a pixie, or I want to play a brownie, or I want to play I want to play something that isn't necessarily a tiny human. I want to play a fantasy race or something like that. And just putting in a little bit of rules there to like say, hey, you can do that. This is how you do it. Because if you don't put it in, someone else will put it in and they'll fuck it up. Because I love people, but people are also stupid. Alright, well, thank you all very much for watching, and I want you all to have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.